Okay. So this is a tech conference, so it's all about tech. Right? There's some talks like this one that is more on a conceptual base. And then we have some really awesome, at least for developers, really awesome session after the lunch where we go and do a code walk, which is awesome for developers, but pretty boring for business people, usually. And the goal for the first sessions this day, so this session and the next one, is to give you an idea of where we're going to and how the code could look in the future. So there's a little bit of difference with Mifos today and Mifos in the future. And this is how I want to take it. So first of all, this talk is meant to be answering the questions of why we think this is needed and what we are going to do. And the code walkthrough later on is simply the how we do it. So this is the idea of these two sessions. They are linked, but if you're not really into code, this code gave really a bit boring, so we want to take it after a good time. Right? So change is life, and that's already what Fred told us. Right? So everything is changing, the world's turning, the world keeps spinning. And Mifos X was designed in 2011 specifically to be a simple-to-use web platform. So the idea was to have something like the LAMP stack, which is simply Linux, Apache software, MySQL, and PHP for web content. So the idea was to provide something easily similar as a core banking, or in this case, microfinance institution solution. So you simply download it, you install it, and you're good to go. That was the idea behind the first design. And the focus was pretty much on REST APIs. We wanted to have a simple way for others to integrate with it and do not depend on languages. So that's the reason why we choose REST APIs and we use JSON. And this worked out pretty well, so we see a lot of tablet, Android, other web applications using our backend, using the REST API. And we're still good there, and we still believe that's the right way to do it. We chose the right way, simply to providing an open API that is usable in multiple languages. And as Greg already mentioned, so the target was small and medium enterprises. So we didn't really target the big ones. We simply wanted to go to the people that needed it, and they were pretty small. Running it maybe on a laptop or running it on a bit more like a laptop. And some started running it on the cloud. So this was the main target. And since then, we saw a bunch of new technologies mature. So there's NoSQL stores that came up. There's cloud computing, which I think most of us never thought in 2010 or 2011 about cloud computing at all. Right? And now it becomes some kind of a state of the art. And cloud computing also brought a new approach, let's call it approach, which is called microservices. So instead of having your one big, huge, monolithic application, we now start having small processes that you could scale on different levels. And what we also saw, specifically in the underdeveloped countries, pretty fastly, was the rise of mobile. So everybody now has a mobile phone, feature phone, whatever, and they're somehow connected. They're connected to the world in some way, and this is something I guess we also didn't really foresee back then. We maybe thought, okay, it's nice, but now everybody's talking about IoT and everybody's connected and accessible, and that's something that's totally changed how things are working today. So for us, and not only for us, for most of the people, the Razor concept simply is the key. So you need to be reliable, you need to be available all the time, you need to be scalable, and if something fails, you need to be recoverable. So these are themes that taking it to some level of software design that we 10 years ago we didn't really thought about. And so if you create a monolithic application, your answer is okay, completed, and you have your scalability. Right? So we got 2 instances now. And this is all driven by the unbelievable growth of how consumers how today really working with it. So I would start with a pretty simple example on the 90s. Right? We had some application design in the 90s, which in the 90s were state of the art, was simply get a database. That was awesome. Do not write files anymore. You use a database. Unbelievable. Right? And it worked fine in the 90s because you had usually your office hours is pretty local, it's not really a total solution, right? So you work only from 9 to 5 maybe, and Sundays and Saturdays not, and if somebody wants to do reporting, you simply set up some processes that create reports during night, and in the morning they could sort of see the reports and they were happy. So then 2000 happens. So the first approach of the internet came. And traction really started then. So everybody was accessing the internet, companies starting to globalize a bit, so they needed to access not the 9 to 5 way, it's the 24/7 way. And then they realized, okay, this setup with only one database won't work anymore. So they created a data warehouse. And they simply split this into 2 different kinds of teams. So you got online transaction processing, which still uses the production database, and then you got some extract, transform, load processes that dump the data into the data warehouse, which also is a database. And we would do some online. So it still wasn't really online, but you at least could do some things without destroying your production system. Then we had 2015. So, given that there's so much access now, so many people running over the internet, using smartphones, using whatever, it was realized that there needs to be more than simply one kind of online transaction database. So the new setup is usually using a NoSQL data store that is doing some front coverage, and then data is spread out into databases, maybe multiple databases. And you still have your sort of ATL process that dumps the data in the data warehouse, and you run Hadoop, because now you can really distribute your computation on online analytics and do some real things with it. And you even are able to create reports and analytics on the fly. You need to really tell the system upfront what reports you want to do, because you don't know the numbers today. And this gives you a lot more flexibility. And this is how this transition over time, and this is exactly the way we will also transition with these needs. Our answer is cloud native. So the main change that we're currently doing is, instead of providing an application, this is runnable inside of any cloud system, we will architect and design our current application to be ready-made for running in the cloud. So we really respect multiple data storage. We really respect discoverability, things that are needed now, and we simply want to have processes that are running in the cloud made for it. But you could still take everything and run it on your laptop. So that's the huge advantage, and also the huge point that we need to tackle in some way, because we still have installations only running on the laptop, and we could not tell somebody, oh, okay, you need some kind of doing your own AWS style on your laptop. That won't work. Right? So we need to find a way how we, first of all, could still create it to be like a monolith, but also be able to run in the cloud and really utilize virtualization in a way easier and way better way than we currently do. One important thing is cloud native doesn't mean public cloud service. So if you talk about cloud, most of the time, specifically enterprises get pretty scared because, oh my God, cloud? Public? Everybody can access it? No. Right? And I've already changed, if I do some business talks, I already changed the theme of cloud and call it on demand, because it doesn't sound so bad. Right? And this most of the time fits. If you say on demand, everybody's happy. If you say cloud, not a cloud. And this is pretty important. So it's not meant to be running on AWS and public cloud. So you could also host it in your own data center. You could set up your own virtualization. These are things that we're trying to cover, instead of forcing you to go public cloud and everybody can read my data. Right? So what's important to reach that? First of all, we need to learn from our own past, where we're coming from. So I get this question asked a lot, because if you have a huge user base or consumer base that you currently have, everybody asks you, why do you do this? Is it really that bad? It works for me. Right? So yes, no, it's not bad what we have. Right? We have our platform is still cutting edge. We're still pretty far ahead of the curve of the current technology if you take a look at core banking systems. Not if you take a look at real online processing data stuff, but if you take a look at core banking systems. We have real multi-tenancy. So every tenant has its own data storage. So we're not mixing some stuff in some tables. We really provide data stores per tenant. This is for sure arguable if this is the right approach or not, but it gives you, if you host multiple tenants, at least the security that data is stored independently for each tenant, so we don't mix anything up. We still have a state-of-the-art REST API. Right? So REST API is still what's the leading edge currently. There's a discussion about if XML or JSON is the right choice or is the right technology, or if you maybe need some binary objects, so that we also could start using bandwidth, because right now the bandwidth is simply increasing crazily, and JSON is smaller than XML, but still larger in binary form. But this discussion is not really settled, so as long as this is not settled, we will stick with the JSON objects, and once we find some kind of a standard, then we will maybe also offer some binary interface. And as regularly said, we are the leading financial inclusion software. We offer customer relation management, business management. We have loans, we have savings. Since this last version, we also provide some shares and dividends handling. So it's increasing all the time, and it's giving you more and more and more with every requirement you have to the community. So that's one of the nice things is, it's not Ashok is doing it, or I is simply the community, right? So for sure we have some resources that work for the community, but there are other people also jump in and say, hey, I want to tackle that. Give it to me. So the question is, what's the deal? For me, it's pretty straightforward. It's all about scalability. The number of financial transactions increase tremendous, and we need to tackle that in some way. So right now, our answer, and Sander had that answer once again, or I gave him that a few months ago. Okay, if you see some trouble with numbers of processes, start another server, deploy Tomcat again, and then try to find a way how you can maybe load balance it or something. And one other point is that we currently only support a relational database. So even if you start getting trouble in the database, you maybe find a way to do master slave, or you maybe find a way to start doing a cluster. But MySQL and clustering, this is a tricky part. It's not really that easy to set up a decent cluster running it with myself. The next point is, and that's a bit mingled with the scalability, it's what I call flexibility. We need to give you more freedom on how you will run that stuff. So right now we are tied to MySQL. You could not run it in another database because we're using JDBC template with native SQL, right? And that's something we need to change because there are a bunch of people already asking us how about PostgreSQL or how about Oracle. So if somebody's using Oracle, we could not support it right now. And as I said before, we tied to Apache Tomcat because we're using connection pooling of Tomcat. So we're not really able to switch out Tomcat and use something else. And then we have the extensibility. As I mentioned before, right now we use some kind of a monolithic software. And so you get your raw file, and we have, yes, for sure, our extensible API, you can build on top of it. But if you really want to start tweaking something inside, this usually means you need to go into the code and change that code. Or you need to find a lean, a nice, smart way how you could swap it out and use it on another way. And this is something we definitely need to change internally. So internally, we need to offer more extension points where you simply jump in and say, I don't want to go alone in this way. I just have my own setup. So let me pull in my little piece of code instead of try to tweak the current code. So as long as hopefully I don't break something, everything will be fine. And this also comes to the closed system. So with closed system, I mean, for sure, and that's something Merle will show tomorrow, maybe, right? For sure you will show it, not maybe. For sure you can extend our system to use Stellar, for Bartek, right? Or you also could do like Anthony explained, you could also trigger mobile payment services using our hook API, but that's not really extension. So if you want to really have some transaction safety, you would expect to do it within the platform instead on top of it, because hooks are simply called once everything has settled in our system. So the transaction's already done. And maybe if then something fails, you need to figure out, oh god, then how could I get that information now back? Okay, I need to make a resettle of the journal, so I need to make an adjustment entry so that I could return it and could say, okay, there's something wrong. Right, so these are things that what I mean by closed system, you need to be a bit more open internally and allow you to really connect things into our internal transaction handling, so that we can really stop it by if something fails, without really needing to readjust your journal or maybe whatever things you need to do. Delete the client and something went wrong. Right? That's some things that we need to change. Right? But it was never meant to be in that way, so that's something we always need to clarify ourselves. Right? We provided a platform for small institutions, and this is exactly what we're doing. And for this, it works fine. But as Craig said, the world is turning, and now we simply got more and more and more and more connectivities from the outside. So everybody wants to integrate with us, and we need to connect ADMs, and we already have questions about, oh, could we have some Swift-like transaction handling so that we also could connect to the outside world and really get some money from cross-border and whatever. So these are things that now would be possible, but as I said, outside of the platform. So if something happens internally, you simply need to find a way how you could return your transaction. So that's one thing pretty important for developers. It's not really, maybe it's important for business guys, I'm not sure, but it's pretty important for developers. We're not inventing the wheel, we're not making the canvas clean and start anew. What we do is we take what we currently have and simply do a fresh interpretation. So we do a refactoring instead of a complete rewriting. That's pretty important, right? So because if you start talking about rewriting, everybody gets scared. Oh my God, and what happens to what we already have? So it's really taking a look at what we currently have and try to find a way how we could split it out and really have small little modules that could work together. And maybe there will be some rewriting for specific portions because you could not refactor everything, right? But the goal is really to refactor and not to rewrite. So not throwing away everything, say, okay, forget about the past, we're now totally new guys, let's start from scratch. That's not what we want to do. And first of all, we need to take a look at what worked for us. Right? So, and the good things that worked for us were, first of all, we, from the start, decided to use domain-driven design, which simply means you focus on the business and you're not trying to solve the whole world. Like you say, okay, my focus is in our case, financial services. This is our business domain. And there's nothing like, so we're not pretty good at client management or business management because it's not our business. We have something which is based on financial services, so we do some KYC and all that things for sure. But if you want to have a client relation management system, maybe we're the wrong person, right? So we offer you a core banking system, but we don't offer you client relation management like Salesforce, for example, right? So that's not our business. We use a pretty nice pattern internally, which is CQRS, command query separation, that simply uses the model of every modification is done in every modification is done on its own model, and we have a model for reading. That simply allows you to create different kinds of models because usually the stuff you read looks totally different than the things you want to store. And you also could use some different stores for storing and reading things. This is the best part about CQRS is that it's the usual pattern that you also see on trading desks. So if you take a look at how trading desks work today, they use the CQRS pattern. They some of the time don't call it that way. So there's one pretty nice trader's desk software called Max that is exactly using that kind of pattern. They were able to do a peak of 6 million transactions per second, which is awesome, by simply choosing the right design at the back end. For sure, they then need a lot of hardware, right? But at least the architecture is able to handle that much if you want to do it. We're not able to do it right now, just to be clear, but the main architecture is able to really serve that amount of numbers if you want to. As I said before, multi-tenancy and open REST API, right? So we don't need to talk about it anymore, it's stressed enough. So now we need to take some of those concepts really to the next level. So first of all, the domain-driven design is awesome. And now we need to really say, we take the components from that domain-driven design and make own modules out of it. instead of putting all in one big module, we now will have small modules based on the internal domains that we see. For CQRS, and that's one thing that's also needed, is we need to really introduce event sourcing. This means we need to store things somewhere, fire some events, and simply return fast. So, because that's the only way at the end of the day how we can assure fast transaction response. It's the only way we can assure it. Right now we're simply mimicking it by writing directly into the database, and maybe everything works fine. But in the future we need to have event sourcing so that you're really able to fire your commands that get stored, you get a decent response, and something happens in the background, and then we maybe write multiple read models instead of only one what we currently do. And one thing which comes from my heart, right, and I'm sure Merle's heart also, is our REST API is awesome, but we need to stabilize it. And first of all, we need to harden versioning. And so currently we're open source. Sometimes this means open craziness, right? So currently it could happen that we do changes on the API level that are breakable without really bumping the version. So we took the next version, which still says version 1, and then we figure out, oh darn, there's somebody's using our API and it won't work anymore. So now we need to kind of work around for him. So that's pretty hard in my heart to really say we need to stabilize and harden our version. And once this is done, we're good. But this is the hard one. Specifically, if we talk about backward compatibility. This is really the hard one to get that right. So, I talked a lot. So let's now take a look at how the architecture, the design for those components will look like. So, as of today, we will still use the Spring framework to get rid of all that infrastructure handling. I don't want to care about how to connect to the database. I don't want to care about how to do JPA, things like that. So we will stay with the Spring framework. And no changes. So infrastructure, there's the first change. So today we only provide, as I said, a usual database. With the framework, we will also provide a NoSQL database. So as a default, we will start with Cassandra, because it's a key value store, and we can also run it in memory, which is pretty fast. And we don't really store huge document trees, so CouchDB wouldn't really make sense in our case. And this nice little gears there simply means that we also will have some business rule engine in the background. We're currently testing rules for it, to really have business rules that we could simply write in a natural kind of language, and then put it into the knowledge engine, what they call it, and the knowledge engine then will do those business workflows and things for you. And this goes so far that you could even use Excel tables if you keep to a specific kind of syntax, where you could define, for example, for KYC, okay, if a customer comes in, I need the name. Next step is, if I have the name, I need to have some ID scan, or I need to have some document, or whatever. And you could really write that into an Excel sheet and lock it into the system, and then it gets integrated while you're doing your KYC process. So that's something that the platform, in this case the 22 framework, will offer in the future. So on top of the Spring framework, which is helping us simply abstract in the infrastructure, we will have our generic domains. This is one thing, this is pretty hard for a developer because generic domains are the opposite of what we usually use as terms. So we talk about core components, the hardcore things, and generic domains simply means hardcore things. So those are the core components called generic domains, right? So we will have, as today, an identity management, right? We maybe will go a slightly different route than today. So we will simply go with the role-based access control and try to get rid of groups. Right, so you will have a user and your roles, and the roles are the grouping. You will have your permissions. So we try to ease the understanding of permissions, roles, groups, users, and how they relate to each other. Then the command processing as of today, but now using the NoSQL database as the entry storage. The event processing, what we currently don't really have. Right? So it's based on the event sourcing. this is one big change, I think, for most of us. We will have a bare-bone accounting directly as one of the generic components, and everything will build up on that. So one mistake, if you want to call it a mistake, that we've done in the past is we started with loan, and we simply created loan accounts, and we had our account layout, and everything was fine, and then somebody said, oh darn, how do I make a journal entry? And then we started to build journal entries aside of it and try to mingle it all together. And so we're still facing some issues sometimes, but there's a journal entry, there's our accounting for loans, and this is something that we totally changed. So the bare bone now will be the journal with a chart of accounts at the background. And how you deal with that for a loan or savings in the future is simply a configuration of your chart of accounts, of accounting rules, and some interest fees and whatever. So everything will run through the journal entry at the end of the day as expected, and not tweaking it over time and try to find a way how we can do that. And for sure, you also need the group processing there, because you need somebody who tells you, okay, this is the interest or whatever. Wait, he has not enough money to really now do a withdrawal or savings, things like that. So this will all be the generic points. Important for generic is those are Java components. They won't offer a REST API. Those are simply bare-bone components that you could orchestrate and create your modules out of that then offer a REST API. And this is where the subdomains come in. The subdomains are the things that you currently use. So usually you don't go down deep into whatever kind of identity management or commands. We don't usually call the real APIs internally, so we call some Uber component, which is the subdomain. And one of the subdomains that we will have for the first release is KYC. And a more flexible kind of KYC as today. So this is where we have the business rules. Then you would have your portfolio product management, which is utilizing all those little pieces. You will have a transaction processing, which simply means every financial transaction will go through that module. So if you want to scale it because we have more transactions, we simply scale only that little piece or module and not all the rest because we don't want to scale KYC because nobody cares about it. And we will have some pretty basic farm. Farm simply means fraud risk management. So we already talked to a bunch of people and we're currently collecting some requirements, and we also try to find some advisors that help us specifically for risk management. What would be a basic risk management? So we could not offer the full package for sure. But this will also be part of the framework so that you can simply pick and choose. The point here is you can use it, but you don't need to use it. So if you think you know how to do, if you think you're doing KYC better than we are, for sure, simply take those pieces below it and write your own KYC. Or if you think this is too low level for me, the KYC component itself, you could simply create a layer on top of it and do what you ever want to do with it. And we will have, and that's something I left out here because I simply don't want to waste too much time. So we will have what at the end of the day is called core domains, so in our case the real stuff. So there is some accounting management on top of it that utilizes the rest. So you would only talk to the account management and say, okay, I want to create a new account based on the loan, and then everything will happen in the background. And the same is for the transaction interoperability. So we'll also have a layer on top of it, transaction interoperability, where you can then also jump in and say, okay, I create a connector and I want to now talk to M-Pesa instead of Mifos. This is the level where you will do it. And I would say the second new kind of approach that we're trying to is what we internally call the level of configuration. Sounds a bit weird, right? So the great part is we don't have any business there. So this is your infrastructure. This is how you set up your infrastructure. And that's why it's great, because it's nothing that we maybe can give you some recommendations or have you, but at the end of the day, you need to decide. Do I want to run it in my own data center? Do I want to run it on this machine? Do I use AWS? Whatever. So, and then there's this pink magenta layer, which is the development portion of the configuration, right, which simply means orchestration. So you can of those components and orchestrate them in a way you think is feasible for you, or would simply provide an easier way to create your own business value. Then we have the real configuration. So if you do the deployment, then you need to tell us, where is my database, how do I do security, do I have an LDAP set up, and I link everything to that LDAP instead of having some weird user-based table. And the last level at the end is the parameterization for the application. So how will my portfolio look? What will I really do based on KYC? These are things that the fourth level of configuration in this case. And this all at the end of the day makes up Mifos.io. So it's all about evolution. That's all we're talking about, right? And we believe that it's really time to take that step. So we waited a long time, right? We tried a lot, and tweaking it here, tweaking it there, but now it's the time really to change it because the numbers are increasing. So for now, we have a full back office. It's mature, it's working. Everybody, okay. This is kind of good. So if you ask a developer, we are happy with it. If you ask a business guy, he's never happy with it, but that's okay. Right? That's how life goes. But I think we're on a point where we could say it's mature now. And so all the little bits and pieces are gone. You can use it. For sure, there's always something missing. You will always do something awesome with it that you're not able to right now. But it's there. And it's proven, at least for the space we're currently at. So SMEs are working with it. So it's really working. It's proven. It's going good. But we need now to simply go to the next step. And I simply picked out two things that came up in the last few weeks, month, whatever. So first of all, we need a better support for Apex organizations. That's what Greg's talked about, and he brought a lot of requirements back from his Latin trip. And we also need to support what is called push payments. And so simply the ability to pay push payments over a mobile device to somewhere. And also host some portion of that information internally in our system. And my goal, and that's why I put numbers here, because you can now time me on that numbers. Right? My goal is that with the framework at the beginning, we will try to reach what currently VisaNet is doing. So VisaNet is currently handling an average 2,000 transactions per second. And they have peaks up to 4,000, and they're able to handle 56,000 transactions per second. And that's my goal for the first framework shot, which is a huge number, but it's my goal. Let's see what happens at the end. And I think it's also time to really utilize the new things that are there that are really, really mature, and we know that they work. NoSQL, Hadoop, maybe Hadoop's not something we will put in at the first step, the second step, but it's something that we need to also keep in mind that we need to find a way how we could mingle Hadoop into all that system and make it work for you. So, just to give you a bit of an idea when we talk about Apex and push payments and whatever, right? So the Apex model, our cases, as Greg told, there is some kind of a bank they already have. This bank already has a license. And what we now want to do is we want to have the bank also have the corporations using Mifos. And the bank is somehow the man in the middle. So it's a bit like a small central bank within that system. And the left side is what we call the in-network. So everybody is connected internally to each other. So if Corporation A wants to send money to Corporation B, it will simply go through a fast settlement process over the central bank, so we're good. There's no direct connection needed. And then we have the external side. And this is where this model is pretty interesting for us, because given they have a license, it's pretty simple to also say, okay, they can use ADM, or they can participate in SWIFT because they're already a real bank. So we want to try to get a corporation to use SWIFT. Fun. Because they're not really a regulated bank, so they don't have anything to do with the real economy, and really getting them to send a SWIFT-based remittance to you would be pretty interesting. And in this case, it's easier for us because there's already a bank that has a license, and we could now utilize that bank as some kind of, as I said, implement a little mediator simply between those banks, co-ops on the side that are not really regulated banks, so we have some regulations but not really licensed, and you have your real economy on the other side. And for push payments, we are looking for what we currently call a shared private journal, which simply allows you to take independent corporations and connect them with each other. That's all. And for this, we're currently looking at draft, which is an consensus algorithm, but we can make sure that they all have the same data. We don't want to provide something like a distributed top reflection, because there's enough software out there that's doing it. We're already integrating with those, but we need to find a way how we could find an easy way for them to simply share transactions, and that's the idea of the journey. Simply allowing transactions to fly in, and then you can do what you want. That's it. I don't, as I told you, I won't take you out. So, any questions?
Could you go back to that slide about the parameterization and those 4 layers?
This one?
Yeah. I mean, could you just quickly go through that again? Just,
Who is it?
The middle layer.
Right? Listen. Okay. Okay.
It's a little bit for me.
No, it's no problem. So, as I said before, right, that's what we call the level of configuration requirement, right? So you have your infrastructure, which is simply your data center or any machine you want to run with it, and that's nothing that we really have a handle on. So we could suggest some things, but at the end of the day, you need to decide, I want to use this server, and I want to use this cloud technology, or maybe not. Right? These are things that are in the ocean. So that's why it's great, because we can't do anything on it. So, the second level, which is the magenta one, I think it's a bit more red for you currently, right? Is what we call orchestration. So you could take on any level you want to use. So you could start with the low-level Java components and create your own services, or you could use our services, so KYC, transaction processing, whatever, and you can orchestrate them in the way you want them. So you can use it as it is, so you're fine. So you simply download it, install it, and hopefully everything works. Or you could say, oh no, I want to have a slightly little layer on top of that where I orchestrate them in my own way. So this is what I mean by orchestration. Then you have the configuration. So once you have your software components ready, you need to deploy them. And then you need some configuration like how to access file systems, how to access the database, or where's the rule engine, right? How many asynchronous processes I would like to support. Right? These are things that you need to configure in a real way. And then everything is running. So this is your empty application is now there and running. And the parameterization simply means that you now start defining how is your portfolio looking. What is your KYC you really want to use? This is based on a per reader problem. So, right? And in the future, Mifos X will simply become a certain kind of configuration or parameter sets, right, that you could pump into your system and then you do it. Instead of having it all hard-coded written in some code.
In relation to the 2 middle layers, there was earlier this code hooks which was being developed, and the possibility of plugging in an independent component and loading it at runtime and getting it to run with the Mifos platform. So where are we on that?
This would be in the orchestration portion.
Okay.
So you would put your specific thing into it too, and then it would run on the
It's supported right now. It's supported right now.
No. So it will be supported in the framework, but not right now. So if you do that, it's not really true. So if you're developing Java and you're using the Spring framework, it's also supported right now, right? Because you could simply extend the auto wiring, so there's the CDI of Spring, and simply get your component into the system too. But right now you need to run with Java and Spring. And in the future,
but is that a runtime thing or it's at a development time?
It's development.
Okay. But at runtime?
At runtime, it's the same. So it would only be picked up currently if you do it on Spring. And in the future, what you can do is, because we will have some kind of discovery service, right? So what you can do is you can write it in Ruby.
So when will that be? In the future?
If everything works out fine, summer 2017.
Okay.
To be honest. Right, so we need to get all these pieces in place prior to it, and then we will start having a pilot in the middle of this year, where this all will go. And you can take it by then, so you could also start earlier if you like to, but it maybe will change a bit, given that we do some on-site piloting testing, and we could provide some stabilized version where we feel good about it at the end of the day. I would say in mid of 2017.
So you already hinted a little bit at timelines. So in terms of streamlining, obviously I think Conflux, Masoni, a lot of independent developers are contributing to what is the current Mifos X or Fineract code base. How are you going to manage and streamline essentially the process of achieving at some point parity, or something that we would call parity, or would it really be like a non-backwards compatible change at some point?
So the timeline is a bit as following, right? So I agreed to my executive director that he will get the first version, which is able to start a pilot, which has nothing to do with our current Mifos X. It's simply a pilot for some kind of Apex organization, right? Or maybe some larger organization that's going to create a network. I agreed with Greg that I would offer the first version in July this year. Okay. And once this is there, then we start the hardware testing. And if this version is there and we have the feeling that it's now feasible and really usable, then we will create a sub-project at Fineract that's pushed over there. So that is then available to anybody. Then we need to sort out with you and with Conflux how we do the migration.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right. And I told Hendrik yesterday, in the beginning my goal is to have I think we talked about it too, right? So at the beginning I want to have some kind of a layer on top of everything so that we can still use the old APIs and do simply a routing through the new APIs so that you don't really need to be scared that much.
It's not necessarily scared, it's more the effort, and it's getting you on camera, saying.
Okay. And the same is what we also and what we also agree about is that we also will, I know that some of us have a huge pain going from Mifos 2 to Mifos X, right? Because we're pretty bad at providing a decent migration. And that's something, Merle's kicking my ass all the time. That's something we need to take care about if we go from Mifos X to Mifos, whatever we call it at the end of the day. Because now you have your journal in some weird database. In the future, you will have a journal in no secret database. So we need to find a way how we could migrate your data, right? But I would expect, from a business side, right? I would expect people who like to use the new framework. I would expect most of our partners simply setting it up separately first to make sure that we're not talking nonsense.
Yeah, of course, but it's more like.
And once you say, okay, now I want to use it, then we need to support migration. And I think the bad thing about migration for us will be data tables, because we don't know what everybody's doing with it. And this is the little portion that we need to tweak with every migration.
Yeah, but it's the same with current migration. So even if you migrate anyone onto the current code base, the data tables are both a blessing because you can migrate anything, but it's also a curse because you need to every time map it custom.
So for those people who do not know, when we talk about data tables, what we mean. So we have a built-in database extension where you could create your own tables, and you could link them to tables from ours, or you could add fields to tables, right? And this is awesome if you want to tweak it and make it more yours. But if we now do migrations, this is hard for us because we don't know what you've done. Right? And so maybe something could get lost, and that's why we need to be pretty careful when we start going from Mifos X to Mifos whatever we want to call it. Whatever. This is where we need to be pretty careful so we don't throw away that or lose it or maybe do something totally weird with it. So that's the only pain point I see. The rest is pretty straightforward, but the data tables are my favorite.
I'm going to ask yet another painful one. So we have a lot of new people in the
Yes.
room. Do you advise them to jump on Mifos X
Yes.
still?
Yes. I do.
I think it's a good advice, but you know.
And I do this mainly because, as I said, first of all, we want to make sure that everything is settled and works, right? And you can now wait for us, and maybe wait. Because I'm a developer, you know I lie. Right? I'm
You
always
underestimate,
yesterday.
right? You underestimate, right?
Always. I'm always done yesterday. Right? That's how usually developers work. Right? And if you then come say, but why didn't you ready say you gave me new requirements, right? So how could I be ready if you gave me new requirements all the time? Yeah. So I would start at least to get a feeling because we want to try to make the transition once we're ready pretty easy. And the feeling for you should be similar. Right? So go for it now. Right? Work with it, test it out. I'm sure you won't go out in the field, right? Turn over all your clients and say we use Mifos X. No, you want to start with a usual business test and say we have a staging system, I need to run it, I'm excited. And you should start with it. Nothing for us to do something new, shiny that we promise, right? And then you're sitting there waiting. And try to reach timeline spread.
My demo's next week. I get my demo next week.
I was out yesterday.
Oh, okay, that's what in my box.
Greg, you know he can give you any demo and you won't know if it does anything on the back end, right?
And I don't want to know.
He already has that kind of demo.
Oh, okay, good.
More questions?